I'm going to tell you something very few people know about me. And that's before I became one of the world's top NLP and hypnosis trainer and a person who's won more awards in the field of hypnosis and NLP than anyone. I was trained as an actor at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. That's the same school that shaped some of the biggest names in film, theater, and television. Robert Redford, Kirk Douglas, Spencer Tracy, Lauren Bacall, Grace Kelly, and the list stretches on and on. And back then, I thought I was learning about acting. But in fact, years later, after psychology, NLP, hypnosis, and working in the deepest levels of hypnotic change, I realized something. Stage presence and hypnotic presence are the same psychology. The same science that makes a performer hold a room, a singer command a stadium, is the same science that allows a hypnotist to captivate a client or a speaker that can captivate a group. It's the same science that gives all leaders, coaches, and speakers unstoppable authority. Now, if you learn this, your influence transform instantly. Let me show you how to develop it. Now, before I explain present, I want you to experience it. So just take a deep breath and allow your attention to settle naturally, easily, and effortlessly on the inside. And the more you try to resist it, the more you just notice the calm in my voice. The more you look for ways to try not to do it, the more you just want to do it. And notice the spaces between all the words. And notice how certainty transmits even through a camera. Now, again, breathe deeply, only slower this time. That's right. Every breath that you take and every beat of your heart, you're becoming more relaxed and more at ease. And what you're feeling isn't hypnosis. It's not an altered state. It's presence, true presence, being right where you are. This is the psychology behind every great hypnotist, actor, speaker, leader, and elite performer in every level. Now, let's talk about the science, the part that made me realize all of this is trainable. Number one is what we would call mirror neurons. When I first learned NLP way back in the day, even before I got into the graduate psychology programs, you begin to learn that people feel what you feel, right? Because your brain is entrained to the people around you, right? And so, best example could be, have you ever had a friend come up and start telling you something that happened bad to them and they're really angry and they describe anger? The next thing you know, you're getting angry with them. Why? That driver didn't cut you off or cause any trouble, but you're feeling it, right? This is why you need to stay calm, grounded, certain, because your brains copy it automatically. Your audience brains copy what you do. Actors know this. You have to feel the emotion for your audience or even the camera to pick it up. This is why tense speakers produce tense audiences. And then we have what they would call the limbic response, right? Limbic resonance. And it's the emotions sync together, right? Because your emotions broadcast like a signal tower, like a radio tower. When you're driving around, see the cell phone towers, right? We used to think this was like woo-woo magic. Now we know it's based in science. And people around you will match it unconsciously, especially if you're in rapport with them. Now, therapists and interrogators and negotiators rely on this. So do the really good performers, right? So when someone with a strong presence enters a room, the audience attention aligns with the speaker's rhythm, the person in charge. Now, when you have this presence, people literally sync to your state. This is why great hypnotists don't force trance at all. They broadcast the state of trance naturally, easily, and effortlessly. So what's presence then? Well, presence is not charisma, right? It's deeper, it's more neurological. It starts with coherence, the alignment between your words, your tone, and your body movements to being congruent, coherence or congruence, right? When you're congruent, people begin to trust you more. We've all had that experience of someone that their words and their emotions and everything doesn't match. Sometimes you can't put your finger on it, but you feel it. Good speakers know how to capture this coherence. And then we want deep certainty. Now, this isn't ego and it's not just hype, right? A subconscious confidence that says, I know where we're going, follow me. really good hypnosis program should always tell people, their new hypnotist, or I always teach coaches and helpers, is when someone comes with a problem, say, I know exactly what we're going to do, even if you haven't quite figured it out yet, because they're looking, our neurology wants to follow someone who knows what they're doing. And we do that by directed attention, total command of where the room focus goes. On the stage, we call it focus of control. In film acting, it's called eye placement. Where's my eye line? You always hear actors talking about that. In hypnosis, we call it attention shaping. Top performers have it, hypnotists require it, and coaches need it. And speakers, if you want to be good, you have to demand it. And anyone, yes, even you or me, can learn it if you don't already have it. And I'm going to give you 4 quick techniques to help you build presence. Presence begins with physiology, a slow, deep, rhythmic breathing that stabilizes your vagus nerve, drops your cortisol, and just signals confidence out into the world, right? So just breathe normal. Now drop your breath even deeper. Breathe from deeper in your belly. Okay? And this begins to change. If you do 4 breaths like that, it changes your neurochemistry. The second technique I can share with you very quickly is your eyes control the room. I learned a long time ago, and I learned on stage, is when you're giving a speech to a group, you look at each corner of the room and then bring the attention, then kind of roll your eyes up like you're scoping, like you're bringing the whole group into you with your eyes, right? On the stage, the good actors will look at different points in the audience. On film, you always want to know where your eye line is, right? Where is your focus going? Because it all picks up, whether it's a camera, a microphone, or an audience, it picks up, right? And this calm gaze, signifies dominance and safety at the same time, right? And sometimes when you're in a group and you're talking, you make eye contact with the people in the group and you wait for them to break their eyes, right? And that signals dominance, right? And we're drawn to people of power, right? And we want to begin to master micro movements, small, head nods, slight leans. They shape how your attention goes, right? So your brain learns that it can do this on cue. And then you have to do the vocal anchoring with your audience, right? It's tone, it's pacing, it's pauses. Watch any good politician when they give a speech, the ones that we would call magnetic or mesmerizing. And put your politics aside, it could be a Barack Obama, a Ronald Reagan, or a Bill Clinton. They spoke with a tone, with a rhythm, with pauses, and they weren't afraid to do that, right? And you let these things just linger. Different pacing has a different effect. There's times you speed up, then there's times you slow down. One of the biggest myths in hypnosis is the hypnotic voice. Every once in a while, I meet somebody, if they find out I do hypnosis, they'll say, well, I was told I should be a hypnotist because I have a hypnotic voice. And I'm always like, 2 of the best hypnotists to ever live, Milton Erickson and Dave Ellman, if you listen to their recordings, they didn't have what you would call hypnotic voices, but they had great timing, pacing, and command of the vocal range that they're talking, right? And then you have to begin to master. This is what I teach in the basically ultimate street smart speakers toolbox that I teach, right? Street smart NLP and hypnosis training. And it's called owning the space, right? In athletics, we call it command posture, right? In the military, you see that. You always see that the senior level leaders have a different posture. It's where you stand, how you enter, how you move. And all of it broadcasts either dominance or submission, right? So when you're communicating with other people, you want to control this. And if you're entering into, you learn this at acting, unless you're told to run in because it's emergency, you plant yourself, you plant your stance, you enter slowly. All your movements should have purpose. if you're going to cross the stage, cross with a purpose, right? If you're going to go make a gesture as a speaker and you're walking over to make the gesture, do it with authority, move with purpose, not just noise. And so then what you want to do is deliver commands with calm confidence, right? Because this swings everything in your favor. And it's really important for public speaking, whether it's to a Rotary group, a BNI group, a conference, if you're doing a seminar at a conference, or you're doing a seminar online. It adds credibility. Right? Your presence becomes part of the change. Are you an example of the change you're trying to teach? Right? It's kind of like, you wouldn't want to take advice on how to sober up from someone that is drunk and they can't stop drinking. Be part of the change you want. So really, all of this begins to shape who you're going to be and what you're going to be, right? And it syncs to your emotional state. Right? And what you can do is if you kind of read the room as you're coming in, you pace it at the very beginning, right? And if it's a hectic room, I remember when I used to give public talks on hypnosis more, I'd always say, how many people here are skeptical about hypnosis? I'd look around, make eye contact, and I'd usually lock in on one and look at them until they broke eye contact and go, well, good. I like skeptics. Do you know why I like skeptics? And my voice would begin to slow down because they're coming in there. They were paying money. Back then it was either a stop smoking seminar or a weight loss seminar. And they're nervous, they're skeptical. And I would say, I like skeptics. That's the command of, I like people. And I would always use the hypnotic command. I know that you, like me, only want things that work. It's a very general statement. We like things that work. But if you do the hypnotic command, I know that you like me. And I would do that with my hands. I know that you like me. So you're telling the audience, you like me. And when I teach this, people make fun of it. It is powerful beyond measure, right? And always remember that presence is not a gift. It can be an innate ability, but it's a trainable skill. There are natural athletes, and then there are athletes that aren't natural athletes, but they become very good at a sport because they practice it. And anyone who commits can become unstoppable. And that's why I teach what I call street smart NLP and hypnosis. At the basic level, it's what really works, not theory. Anyone who's ever taken a psychology course knows the first 2 years of psychology is history and dogma. And it's not on how people think and what people are doing. Just the other day, quick personal story. I was talking to someone and they found out I was also a licensed clinical psychologist. And they said it was either nephew or godson, somebody was going to college and they were thinking about studying psychology. And I said, oh, well, you can ask them. Most people want to study psychology for a few reasons. Number one is they want to learn how to control people. I want to get into their minds. I'm going to become a profile. I want to do that. Second is they think there's something wrong with them, right? And they think by taking classes, it will fix it. Right? And the third is someone just thinks it's a really cool science, right? But I always tell people, especially if they're in one of the first two groups, they want to learn how people actually think and maybe influence them, sales, marketing, whatever it is, or they think they need something kind of tweaked, take an NLP course, take a hypnosis course, right? That'll teach you more about how people actually think than most doctorate level psychology. And if it's by someone that's really trained in street smart NLP and hypnosis, it's wild, right? But going back to what we're talking about is when you master presence, being comfortable in your own skin, people feel your authority way, way before you ever speak. So use this information. And wherever you're at, make sure you subscribe to this channel, share it with other people. It's part of the NFNLP network. And I keep changing this. But please keep in touch and reach out if you have any questions or would like to see a video on any specific topic. And it's all based on neurology and neurochemistry, neuroscience. So thank you.